If you've been on this channel for a while, you've probably heard the term Indo-European over and over again. And who are these people? The ones who speak Indo-European languages. You, me, the Russian admirer of Putin, the Iranian supporter of the revolution, or the Rohingya fleeing Burmese persecution. The Indo-European language family is huge, stretching from Iceland to Bangladesh, and is spoken by about 45% of the world's population. And this is not counting the extinction of some Indo-European peoples, who are now history. And which Indo-Europeans? Today we'll talk about the vanished Tocharian people, the ones who spread as far as the present-day Xinjiang region. In China, they adopted Buddhism as their religion, but they disappeared around the 10th century AD. Or maybe not. The Uyghurs know it. Who were the Tocharians? How did a group of white Caucasians arrive in China almost 4,000 years ago? Are you interested? Alright, then stay until the end of the video. The Tocharians are one of the most enigmatic peoples in history. The little we know about them isn't from writings, but from archaeology, linguistics, and genetics, which don't give us all the pieces of the puzzle. So most of the things you'll hear in this video are just theories. It's suggested that the ancestors of the Tocharians split off very early from the original Indo-European group, whose most accepted origin was between the North Caucasus and the Volga area. According to the Kurgan hypothesis, between 3,500 and 2,500 before Christ. Before Christ, the Tocharians would have been the Indo-Europeans who moved toward the Tarim Basin, that is, around the Tarim River and in the Taklamakan Desert, in what is now the autonomous region of Xinjiang, China. And how did they get so far? No idea, but they sure were great walkers. We can deduce their physical appearance thanks to genetic studies of the Tarim mummies discovered in the already mentioned basin, which are about 2,000 years old. Around the time when the Tocharians would have arrived in the region, these settlers would have had blonde or reddish hair, light eyes, and Caucasoid features, very different from the neighboring peoples of East Asia. It is also deduced that these mummies come from a population of the Afanasyevo culture, herders who would have settled in the Altai region. This reinforces the idea that the Tocharians are descended from migrants from the steppes of northern Central Asia, who, in turn, were related to the Indo-European peoples originating from the Caucasus and the Volga. Their language was an independent Indo-European branch. The hypotheses suggest that it was closer to the Western languages, such as Celtic, Germanic, and Latin, than to the Eastern ones, like the Indo-Iranian languages. That is, a true isolation from the rest of its close relatives. This, together with their physical appearance, reinforces the idea that the Tocharians represented an early and separate migration. That being said, how did the Tocharians live? As mentioned, the first Tocharians likely arrived in the Tarim around 2,000–1,800 before Christ. Before Christ? Once here, they had settled in oases and river valleys within the Taklamakan Desert. That is, they had to spread out across this immense desert territory. And what does this mean? That instead of coming together, each Tokai tribe looked out for its own interests in the face of scarce resources? Thus, small city-states were formed, scattered among themselves, like Kucha, Agni, Kroraina, or Turpan. Each one with its own administration, its own dialect of Tocharian, and without a common authority. In these entities, self-sufficiency prevailed over expansion, the only advantage of living in this desert terrain, which was an integral part of the Silk Road. So they actively traded with other peoples, such as doctors from India and the Chinese. In fact, the latter documented them as the Yuan-Si. In this way, the Tocharians received foreign influence. The most relevant to us is the arrival of Buddhism in the Tarim Basin between the 1st and 3rd centuries AD, probably under the influence of states such as the Kushan Empire. By the 5th century, there were already Buddhist monasteries in Kucha, Agni, and Turpan, where Buddhist texts were found, in Tocharian. In this way, the Tocharians adapted commercially and culturally to the peoples of the region, which allowed them to survive despite their limited cohesion. The problem was that this tactic was not eternal for the Tocharians. It stopped working for them starting in the 6th century AD. Their executioners, the Turkic peoples, if that name sounds like Turkey to you, that's right, they are the direct ancestors of the Turks, centuries before they migrated to Anatolia. The origin of the Turkic peoples was the steppes of present-day Mongolia. It turns out that not all of them, like the Xiongnu, went to bully China. Other Turkic peoples began to expand westward. By 552, they founded the Kanatugok Turk, centered in Mongolia, but which expanded to occupy part of the Tarim Basin. Once here, the Tocharians were forced to pay tribute. Likewise, they established control over the trade routes, less autonomy and self-sufficiency, nothing good for the Tocharians. The decline of the blonde people of China happened gradually until 742, and it can be considered the final blow. This is when the Uyghur Khaganate was founded, led by the ancestors of today's Uyghurs. Yes, the Muslim people currently oppressed by China. Ironically, because they are part of the new Silk Road, and independence for these people is simply non-negotiable for the Chinese government. Going back to the ancient Uyghurs, they inherited the political, military, and cultural organization of the Kokturks and gradually assimilated the Tocharians. In 843, the Kingdom of Kocho was founded, which is considered the final assimilation of the Tocharians, whose languages finally disappeared around the 10th century AD. Or maybe they didn't really disappear. Even though the Tocharians vanished as a culture and language, their genetics persist in the current Uyghurs of northwest China. Genomic research suggests that the Uyghur Khanate represented a Turkic elite that ruled over a majority of white-footed Tocharians. Nothing that hasn't happened in Europe, like the case of the Visigoths, who ruled over a majority of Hispano-Romans, or the Franks over the Gallo-Romans. For this reason, many Uyghurs to this day retain mixed features such as light eyes and brown hair, or features that are intermediate between Europe and Asia, a true millennial fusion. For this reason, the Tocharians were culturally assimilated by adopting the language and religion of their conquerors. But they did not disappear biologically. Instead, they survive in the physical and genetic memory of the present-day Uyghurs. So, as you can see, the Tocharians were and still are a link between East and West. They are the living proof that the Indo-Europeans have been almost omnipresent on the Eurasian continent. Although their language became extinct, their blood still lives on in the sands of the Taklamakan. History sure always brings us a new surprise. Did you know about the Tocharians? Don't forget to leave your comment and subscribe to the channel. Also, I'm leaving my social media links in the description. And in case you want to watch the new videos at the premiere and have more interaction with me, your donations on Patreon, Una Manito, Net, or channel memberships are welcome. See you next time.